He hit. Hello, in today's video, I will be breaking down the weirdness of Ian Machado Garry. Obviously, pretty much every UFC fan has a problem with Ian Garry. And today I will be breaking down all of the major events and trying to sort of piece through the broken mind and weirdness that is Ian Machado Garry. I tried to put the events in actual order as which they happened as best as I did, so if they're a little out of order, don't shout at me. But recently in the news, there's been a lot of weirdness on Ian Garry's part, so I thought this would be the perfect time to sort of just drop this as what I'd like to call the Ian Garry files, but sort of I guess, not a hit piece really, more of a documentary, because it's all stuff he said, so I'm just letting the weirdness be shown purely by him. So we'll go to the first sort of thing that he did that really kind of griped the fans and rubbed everybody the wrong way, starting off with his interactions with Neil Magny. So this was Ian Garry's first ranked fight, and in this fight, in the press conference for UFC 292, which the fight was on, Neil Magny was asked a question, something about like Ian Garry being a young up-and-comer, undefeated. And Neil Magny kind of gave a sort of cheeky answer, just being like, oh, I've faced a lot of young guys, I know I'm the older guy, and I'm going to do like I do with my kids and just give them a little spanking, He was just trying to not be boring, give a good answer for the media to have. Just a silly little throwaway liner saying he's the old guy going up against an up-and-comer. Nothing crazy, man, but Ian Garry then comes out and, it wasn't at the press conference, he said. I believe it was either media before the fight or maybe the media day. And I think Ian Garry at media day, he came out almost in tears over this, pretty much being like, that is disgusting how Neil Magny could say these things. Absolutely disgusting. How you could ever think about hitting a child. And just being a crybaby and that sort of thing, all that stuff. I wish I had an interview for it, but I thought this picture was better. And then even at the press conference, he kind of repeated the same thing. How could you ever think about hitting a child? That's disgusting. You're a fighter. You're not a real man. Which, ironic of Ian Garry to question anybody else's idea of a real man. And everybody was just kind of like, man, what's wrong with this guy? It was clearly just a joke, and like he took it way too far, and he's just so annoying, man. This is kind of where I got rubbed off the wrong way by Ian Garry, because before this, I'd seen people saying with the whole "we're not here to take part, we're here to take over." Oh, he's copying Conor, or trying to be Conor, but I didn't really care. And actually, the first UFC fight I ever went to, UFC 273, Ian Garry was on. I believe he was fighting Darian Weeks or something like that. He won by decision, and he made a thing in his post-fight saying he's having a kid, and now he's going to be the daddy of the welterweight division, something like that. But I thought he was a good dude and obviously very talented, but with this, the way he handled just a little harmless joke by Neil Magny, I was like, this is kind of a weird dude. And it had some negative effects for Neil Magny, and you can see, I'll read this out loud. Ian Garry's comments in itself had a lot more consequences than just like nonsense at the press conference. There were literally screenshots being taken of headlines saying that I'm a child abuser and I do this to my kids. There were screenshots being taken and put into apps and things like that would be admissible in court, where I'm literally fighting for the custody of my children. Neil Magny shares how Ian Garry labeling him as a child abuser affected his life. So at first, we as all the fans were just like, man, this guy's annoying. He can't take a joke, just a little joke. And he's pretty much crying at the press conference going, you can't do that. How could you do that to kids? And we were already annoyed and didn't really like this guy after that with just that. But come to find out, this had actual consequences on Neil Magny's life. This image Ian Garry painted of Neil Magny was used in court where he was at the time currently fighting for custody of his children. I don't know if that affected it, but with the way he's talking about it, it seemed like it probably did have some sort of effect. I hope Neil Magny has custody of his children. He seems like a good dude. It was just a joke, but this is just kind of the first instance, I'd say, where we were like, dude, Ian Garry, what's wrong with you? He's literally affecting this man's life. So it went from just an annoying guy who can't take a joke to this guy is literally affecting a man's life and custody of his children, which is just insane that could come from that. So I would say this was the first big instance of, man, something is off with this guy. He's a weird guy, man. He's affecting fighters' life outside of the octagon. So now we go on to the next weird moment by Ian the P-Head Garry. This is obviously the most infamous moment by Ian the P-Head Garry. And it's the book that his wife wrote. I haven't mentioned his wife yet in this video, but we all know about her. As an MMA fan who knows Ian Garry, you know about his wife, who is 14 years older than him. Ian Garry is, I believe, 28, and his wife is 42, and he has a child with her, which, for a professional athlete to be going a lot older is already kind of crazy. Usually if it's a professional athlete, they go younger and get some young blonde. No, Ian Garry got a 42-year-old Brazilian woman and knocked her up, which is kind of crazy. But, maybe he just likes them MILFs. Not crazy, But there's some weirdness around it that makes it kind of crazy. That being her book. As you can see here, Layla Ann Lee, How to Be a Wag. Now you might ask, MMA Trav, what is a wag? And I shall answer. A wag, Wives and Girlfriends Club. This is speaking about wives and girlfriends of famous athletes. And I'll just go ahead and read the book overview for this. How to Be a Wag, the ultimate guide to catching the man of your dreams. The hot new career option is to be a wag, and we're here to tell you how to become part of the most prestigious wives and girlfriends, wags, club. Ever dreamed of walking in the footsteps of the likes of Victoria Beckham, Cheryl Cole, or Colleen Rooney? This guide has everything you need to know. We tell you how to pull off wag style and give great makeup tips. There's advice on dealing with the paparazzi, partying like a wag diets, and much more. If you want to bag the next David Beckham or flirt with the like of Fernando Torres, this guide is for you. This is the only guide you'll need to become the next #1 wag. OK Magazine's Layla Ann Lee is a celebrity guru, mingling with the wags and top celebs at the red carpet events and after-show parties. This is her official guide to becoming a wag. So his old wife wrote a book on how to become a wife or girlfriend of famous athletes. That's not ringing any suspicious bells to me at all. That's not kind of weird. Is that not kind of weird to you guys, man? And I read on, the most trustworthy source, Reddit, that pretty much, you can see it's only 11 pages long. It's more of a pamphlet than a book, if anything. But in the book on how to be a wag, she pretty much details just to sleep around with a bunch of young, successful athletes until you find one gullible enough to marry you. So obviously that's a woman you want to put a ring on as a young, up-and-coming, undefeated MMA fighter as he was at this time. This is not weird at all. This probably has no sort of effects on his personality and why he's kind of a weird guy. I don't know. I'm just joking around here. I'm not trying to get sued or anything, but On to the next instance of weirdness by Ian Machado Garry. Jeff Neal reacts to Ian Machado Garry making t-shirts with his mugshot. It was some low class S. Now let me see if they show. Well, they do not show the picture of the t-shirt. I'll go ahead and just look it up. Okay. Here we go. That is the picture of Jeff Neal's mugshot when I believe he got arrested for a DUI it was. And Ian Garry before their, or maybe it was after, I think, let's check. Oh, it was before their fight when they were supposed to fight at UFC 292, but before their fight at 298, released a shirt with Jeff Neal's mugshot on it, as you can see, while holding his little infant son, which is insane. He's wearing a shirt making fun of the misfortunes of another man, Jeff Neal in this instance. And I'm not going to act like I'm above that. If Sean Strickland or Josh Hokett or Colby Covington or some notorious trash talker like that did something like this, I would probably find it pretty funny. But this is Ian Garry, the same guy who takes such offense to Neil Magny's joke that he's pretty much crying at the press conference and has effect on child custody hearings that have effect on if Neil Magny sees his children as frequently as he's used to. This is that same guy. This is not Colby Covington. This is not Josh Hokett. This is not Sean Strickland. If it was one of those three, they're willing to take a hit because they give out so many. This guy almost cries at press conferences because of a joke about, I'm the older fighter, I'm going to have to give him a spanking like I do to my kids. So that's too far for Ian Garry. And he goes on a low testosterone crying rant about it. But it's fine to make fun of the misfortunes of another man who is struggling with some stuff, obviously, if you're going out and getting a DUI. Not going to say Jeff Neal is a perfect man and, it wasn't his fault he got the DUI. He probably shouldn't be drinking and driving, but still, this is the same Ian Garry who had problem with that one thing, but this is completely fine. So-called head games, but Neil Magny was something that's going to affect him in court. Look, Ian Machado Garry happy to serve justice to Neil Magny. Like, okay, dude. Yeah, you're the law, bro. You're RoboCop over here. Like, who's this guy? Look at his little pea-head smile. Look at this little guy. Who does he think he is? This was obviously a lie. Called out Steven Thompson. You don't call out Wonder Boy, bro. It just shows this is the hypocrisy of Ian Machado Garry, which we're about to get on to the Machado and Brazilian aspect of his life in a second, but I just wanted to show the hypocrisy here, how he can't take a joke, cries like a little low T baby, but then is willing to throw bombs at another dude about his crime in his past. But now we'll get on to some aspects of his wife's past and how he got the Brazilian aspects of his name. Ian Garry comes clean on living with wife Layla Machado's ex-husband Richard Cullen. There's a child in all of this. Huh. This is a weird headline. I gotta read more on this. Blah, 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 blah. What? The Future often shares pictures and clips of moments that he shared with his close ones on social media. But did you know that he even keeps his wife's ex-husband close to him? What? As Garry began preparing for his comeback at UFC 298 against Jeff Neal, he did something that not many people could have done. He hired his wife's ex-husband. Let's find out more about the relationship between Layla Machado's ex-husband and Gary. Yes, let's do that. Why is Layla Machado's ex-husband Ian Garry's nutritionist? That's a good question. A few months ago, back when he was still preparing for his fight against Neil, the undefeated mixed martial artist appeared in an interview with Shaquille Majori on the Shaq MMA. Therein, the host pointed out that Richard Cullen, who is indeed a highly skilled nutritionist, was a part of the fighter's camp. Coincidentally, Cullen was also Machado's ex-husband and father to Gary's stepson. The fighter applauded Mahori as he gave the correct insights about the reason why he hired Cullen. Oh my god. It was indeed to let Cullen be able to spend some time with his son while Gary could benefit from his exemplary skills as a nutritionist. He said, "So the main reason behind I'm not going to do the accent. Behind my wife's ex-husband was he's an elite performance nutritionist and he is very effing good at what he does, right? To the point at which we've done every single weight cut for the UFC and they've been easier and easier and easier every single time. We've worked phenomenally together and I'm very proud of the work we've done." Oh my god. So he has a 42-year-old wife, 14 years older than him. She wrote a book on how to become a wife or girlfriend of a famous athlete. And that his wife's ex-husband lives with him and is his nutritionist. And one thing about Ian Garry's nutrition, I'd just like to say Ian Garry is a self-renowned vegan. So that means this nutritionist is making him vegan meals. Maybe that has something to do with Ian Garry's testosterone level. Maybe the ex-husband's making him his vegan meals, and then Ian Garry's playing the Switch while he's enjoying Ian Garry's wife. You know, if you know what I'm saying. But this is obviously insane. Any sane person is not going to have their wife's ex-husband or ex-anything, ex-boyfriend, whatever, ex-talking stage for that, living with them, and you're paying them. And the thing about the stepson, that's not a lot of people have stepsons, a lot of people remarry, but hiring his dad and having him live with you just so he can spend more time with him. I don't care, man. He can get his own custody. He's not living with me and feeding me. Like, this was when, obviously the WAG thing was already pretty bad, but this is when the main title of Ian Garry came upon him. And that is the word that we all call him, a cuck. Because what else can you call somebody who pays for their wife's ex-husband to live with them and cook for him vegan meals? You know, Ian Garry's got his wife's ex-husband making him soy meals and probably serving him a nice cold glass of Soylent. So, what a life Ian Garry has. On to the next thing. This is just a little thing, not really a main thing. Just Sean Strickland kind of came out and said some pretty funny stuff about Ian Garry. You know, Sean Strickland called the future an effing cuck. Leading up to UFC 296, and the two also had a run-in at the UFC Performance Institute. Garry detailed the incident during an appearance on the MMA Hour. "I wouldn't say it was seen. It was more of a glance and him being shuffled into a lift, and that was it," Garry said, and he had a little snicker on his face, and I shouted something at him. I don't know what I shouted at him, but I shouted something at him before I even had a chance to think. My body went straight into fight mode, and the doors closed. There was nothing much to do, to be honest. I wish we had a video of this encounter, because, let's be honest, Sean Strickland does not mince his words, and I doubt it was just a glance. I bet there was a pretty long interaction, and there was probably some security guards who had to get in the way and stop Sean Strickland from just completely destroying Gary's weak little psyche. And I wish there was a video of this, but obviously Sean Strickland has called out Ian Garry a lot. Sean Strickland is definitely a guy that disagrees with Ian Garry's let's just say lifestyle choices. Sean Strickland disagrees with him very much, obviously. So I thought this was a good thing to include, show how other fighters feel about Ian Garry, you know. And here's another thing. UFC 322's Leon Liar Edwards won't ever make any money off Ian Garry. I know people's true colors. So the next two, and I believe I could find a third if I really needed to, are just kind of examples of Ian Garry being very weird with people's gyms. He's had a lot of instances of this, and I just thought I'd go over it to show not only is his personal life weird, but his professional life is weird. And if I had to make any theories, I would say it's probably some of his personal life bleeding over and kind of messing with the professional life, if we're being honest. So let's just go into this. The future really doesn't like Rocky. Tension has been brewing between the number 6 ranked welterweight contender Ian Machado Garry and former 170-pound kingpin Leon Edwards for nearly 2 years. And Garry never misses a chance to take a shot at his fellow UK-based fighter, but according to him, they'll never fight. It started back in 2023 when Garry was gym hopping across the world in search of the best training partners. During that stretch, he joined Leon Edwards' Team Renegade in Birmingham, England. The arrangement didn't last long. Garry was reportedly asked to leave because he was not adding to the team's culture. Edwards later added that while he didn't knock out Garry in sparring, he did give him a little taste. I know I'm just going to say Leon Pillowheads and Edward. Maybe I poked Ian Garry, but you're not getting any knockouts, bro. I'm just going to say that. Fast forward to 2025, and the bad blood hasn't cooled. Garry has repeatedly taken aim at Edwards, calling him weak, predicting his retirement, and accusing him of lying about what really happened at Renegade. I'm not going to read Leon Garry's part. I don't really care about Ian Garry's part. But, so, at Renegade MMA, they don't believe Ian Garry added to the culture of the gym. I don't know if they really specified what they meant by that. Let's see if maybe. Yeah, so obviously Ian Garry tried to say he was just beating up Leon Edwards and that's why he kicked him out. So I guess maybe they're just trying to, Ian Garry's more nomadic approach to preparation has given him great results, but is not in line with what we are creating at Team Renegade. So it has nothing to do with one specific fighter or a specific coach. I don't know. It sounds like they're trying to be nice there, but it seems like they're kind of saying he's just, switching teams, trying to get anything that'll help him. But I have a feeling there was some personal aspects that they didn't really want him at the gym. So we'll go on to another example of Ian Garry being weird with MMA gyms. Ian Machado Garry accuses Michael Page of trying to bribe coach for information. Just before the UFC 303 pre-fight press conference concluded, Ian Machado Garry threw out an inflammatory accusation that he promised would get Michael Page banned from the sport. While that seems rather unlikely, it didn't stop Garry from launching into a tirade aimed at the former Bellator fighter after the two exchanged words on stage. Initially, Garry just taunted Page with a threat to reveal some mysterious information, but the veteran fighter and one-time BKFC brawler seemingly had no idea what Garry was talking about. I already broke this man's confidence down so much, he knows. I don't need to say what I'm talking about, Garry shouted. You know exactly what I'm on about. Your self-confidence is effed. You know what I'm talking about. It will come out. It will come out, kid, but your brain is effing scurrying for excuses. Do you want to say it, or will I? Tell the people. As Page effectively laughed in his face, Garry responded by claiming the veteran striker attempted to pay off somebody at his camp for information ahead of their UFC 303 fight. There have been dozens of accusations about moles infiltrating training camps in MMA over the years, but Garry went one step further by suggesting that Page was willing to pay for that information, yet returned with nothing. Did you and your boys offer thousands of dollars to get information and Shudo box for my boys? Garry said. Did you send a message and offer thousands for information, yet couldn't infiltrate the camp? You couldn't get into it. The Shudo Box family is tight. Your little effing rat jiu-jitsu coach offered money to one of my Brazilian friends, and you got nothing. Saturday night, you're effed. So, just another instance of Ian Garry being very weird with teams. At this point in time, he started training with Shudo Box, Charles Oliveira's team, even though I believe he still trains at Kill Cliff down in South Florida. But he's trying to make weird accusations of Michael Page. A constant theme with Ian Garry, just making accusations on other people and trying to get other people in trouble. You know, messes with Neil Magny's custody. Now he's trying to get Michael Page permanently banned from fighting. Brings up DUIs of Jeff Neal. You know, constantly just weird stuff from Ian Garry. And while this wasn't a gym he got kicked out of, still weird stuff with MMA gyms. And now I'll go to another weird instance of Ian Garry in an MMA gym. Okay, where is the headline here? Okay. This was pretty big in a couple weeks ago. Ian Garry unfollowed this guy on Instagram who's pretty big, Alex Peregrande. He's a PFL fighter, featherweight. Pretty much the situation is Peregrande posted a video of him and Ian Garry sparring from, I think, like years ago at this point. And Ian Garry complained, saying they didn't want them filming and that all that. And he was filming without consent. And Peregrande put out the full video showing the full sparring session, in which he's like, yeah, I got beat up. He's way better than me. But it also shows that Ian Garry knew the camera was there. He was joking around, laughing. Nobody had a problem. I believe Peregrande said his girlfriend asked Ian Garry's team, and they were like, yeah, we don't care about the filming. But obviously now it's a bad look getting taken down by a featherweight when you're about to fight one of the most dominant grapplers we've seen in MMA. So now Ian Garry has a problem, and he crashes out and he goes all soy boy and unfollows him like a high school girl would. So just, again, weird stuff. I'll start reading this. The spat started with Peregrande posting a video of a training session where he took Garry down. Garry unfollowed Peregrande on Instagram after the clip went viral. Replying to a fan, Garry said that he unfollowed Peregrande because Russian DNA had filmed their training session without consent. Garry also accused Peregrande of continuing to film even after he was asked not to. Because he filmed without permission, then he secretly kept filming me after I asked him to stop, and has been editing and reposting the same session for years, Garry wrote. I like the kid, but respect when someone says no to filming you. And this is just not true. In the video, you can see Ian Garry looking towards the camera, giving him advice on how to fight and all this sort of stuff. He clearly knew about the camera and did not ask him to stop filming. If I was sparring with somebody and asked them to stop filming, I would not then look at the camera as I'm giving him advice on how to check leg kicks and stuff like that, dude. That's just not real. So this is like another instance of Ian Garry just being so weird with his MMA gyms. And I believe there's another instance of Kill Cliff where Ian Garry kind of had problems with Shavkat. And Shavkat said he knocked him out at... Okay, I don't know. I might not be able to find it, but he's just constantly weird with his people at his gyms, his teammates, or people at other gyms. He just brings weird interactions with gyms, and obviously it's something to do with his personality. He's a weird guy, we all know that, but I'm wondering if maybe any of his personal life has anything to do with that. And I believe we'll kind of see some of that in the next thing I'm going to show. Here. Oops, sorry. Let me show you this video. This went kind of viral. recently. And in this video, Ian Garry pretty much says he wants women to rule the world, which a lot of people are calling him a weirdo for. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about what he says in the very beginning, which gives us a little insight into what this man's problems are.
Should look at his wife and know that that's the person I need to listen to. Like, if the world was run by women, we'd all live in a better world. Like, it would all be simpler and easier. That's the fact of the matter. Whether you want to agree with it or not, or you think whatever it is, if women ruled the world and we just listened to them and let them take over, it would be an easier world.
Can I just jump in?
So he says you should look at your wife and listen to her and just let her tell you everything. That comment may explain a thing or two. This is his same wife that wrote a book on how to be a wife or girlfriend of famous athletes, and in the book detailed how to eventually find the gullible one enough to marry you. And there was actually a thing that came out that she gets some of his money. She gets like 60%, he only gets 40 or something like that. But this makes a lot of sense for Ian Garry and why he's such a weirdo. You know, you've probably seen this in real people where somebody starts dating or marries just some crazy girl that tries to kind of control them, and he's a cuck, so he's letting it happen. I'll watch the video again. He kind of just says, let the women take over and do what they say. I'm not gonna say politically, I don't care about that statement. It's how it relates to his personal life that shows a lot and explains a lot. So let's just watch it again.
Should look at his wife and know that that's the person I need to listen to. Like, if the world was run by women, we'd all live in a better world. Like, it would all be simpler and easier. That's the fact of the matter. Whether you want to agree with it or not, or you think whatever it is, if women ruled the world and we just listened to them and let them take over, it would be an easier world.
Can I just jump in?
Here, the guy agrees. What a weirdo. But yeah, so he just is brazenly just admitting that, oh yeah, we need to just listen to women, give up all of our choice and listen to them. And I don't think he's talking about politically. I don't think he's talking about Kamala Harris or some female Irish politician. He's clearly talking about his wife, dude. He's talking about his wife clearly rules with an iron fist in the Ian Machado Garry household. That's why her ex-husband lives with them, and that's why he pays him to live there. So just weirdness, you know. This went viral a couple days, and something else went viral about Ian Garry crying at Disney films, which is funny and goes with the low test meme, but it's nothing in the grand scheme of things. Now, this thing is pretty much a nuke in the grand scheme of things, what I'm about to show. If it will ever load. Here we go. This went viral recently and is the reason I'm actually making this video, so let's just go ahead and watch this. If it will ever load.
And give me the love and the support. So you should.
Oh my god, it's having a little trouble.
It's like, no, like, you can be that boy behind the scenes when it matters, not when, oh yeah, there's the flag. No.
But like you say, your mum was just scared for you.
Like, it doesn't matter though. You can be scared for me and support me.
Yeah.
One thing that I have, and this is again, I don't hold this over my parents, but it irritates me to push me to be the best, if that makes sense. Because I never, and genuinely, like, to any parent in the world, I feel like if you take this approach towards your kids, it will give you a better relationship with your kids, because I know I have to do it with mine because of the relationship I've been given with my parents. You fucking guys didn't show up.
Okay. to break that down, pretty much Ian Garry's just saying his parents are only showing up for him now that he's all famous and about to fight for a world title and possibly win a world title. And after that crazy claim, somebody very close to Ian Garry, his brother, Sean Garry, came out and kind of put his view of things, and I'll read that. Ian, you're not a victim. You act like we were beaten as kids. Like Neil Magny's kids, apparently. We grew up in a middle-class house and had everything we wanted. You're the type of guy to take money off his parents and never pay them back. I think the world is entitled. We had everything a child could need. Oh no, you got paid to go to college and your mother was stressed. You got flown all over the world with boxing, yet you talk about them not supporting you. Dad personally got involved in your boxing the whole time, even when he was sick and in chronic pain. Do me a favor and explain that one, Ian. He's going to have a hard time explaining that one, and there's still more. We attended every one of your fights, and we always believed you could do it, but Layla, his wife, who met you when you were only a few fights away from the UFC, is suddenly the one who had faith? No way, really, you were already there. Sorry. You're an avoidant person like me, but I've grown up emotionally unlike you. You hide from your negativity because you can't cope with the reality of your own actions. Missing your granddad's funeral? Was that a real man thing to do? Not even a text, lad. I'm missing something here. A world run by Layla, more like... I don't know what this YouTube video is a link to. I may have to check that out. Funny, before you met her, you talked about your family very differently. Or were you still too immature at 21? Funny that. Do me a favor, Ian. I've been so quiet about your situation because I still feel bad for you. But if you even think about spreading this BS again, I will make the full truth clear in its entirety, and that's a promise. Wait 10 years, haha. You do realize we will not be waiting for you in 10 years' time. I want you to think about that. My patience with you, Ian, has worn thin. And this is his brother, his followers. If it will. And this is his brother posting the comments because he wanted it to be seen by more. But this series of comments by his brother was a bombshell in the Ian Garry files. It kind of confirms what we were all thinking, because before, obviously the stuff with the ex-husband living at the house, his wife being older than him, and writing a book on how to secure a young athlete husband, that's all, it may not hold up in court, but we all know, come on, man. But this is a guy on the inside of Ian Garry's life, pretty much confirming what we thought, even though not saying it, but threatening to confirm it, so... Let's hope Ian Garry brings this up at the press conference. And Sean Garry just drops a truth nuke on him before his fight. You know, that would be pretty insane, and maybe I'd make a follow-up discussing all that stuff. But, I mean, this guy, it's a very, not normal situation, but it happens a lot where you see some crazy woman, wife or girlfriend, usually in this situation a wife, making that man believe, oh, she's the best thing, and what they always do is they always cut you off from their family. They're gonna try to cut you off from your parents, your brother, your sister, whatever, because they know the real you, your family, and they're gonna try to help you through everything. Where this woman could be wanting you for your money, your car, your house, whatever. And clearly, this woman, this being his wife, who wrote a book about how to secure young athletes, wants him because he may be a UFC world champion in a couple weeks' time. And then she's got the money, and then she can still be banging her ex-husband who he's paying to live with her. So, this was just quite the nuke in the Ian Garry story. And just all around craziness this situation is. And if Sean Garry drops another remark, I'll look at it and discuss it, but, you know, this is just crazy. I can't claim to be a fan of Ian Garry because of all this, but I try to like him, and then he just does something like this, and I'm like, dude, you know, and also saying you're a fan of Ian Garry is insane. You know, I'm from Tel Aviv, I like Ian Garry, he's my favorite fighter, but it just keeps getting worse and worse when you think it can't be possible, man. Cutting off your own family, missing your grandpa's funeral, that like this just keeps getting worse and worse. And I truly thought he was gonna win against Islam Makhachev, and I'm kind of mad that now because of the upsets we've had this year, everybody's like, maybe Ian Garry will win, because I truly, stylistically, he's the bigger guy, bigger than Islam, which he's never had to face, and the first time Islam's gonna have to move forward in a fight against Ian Garry. I think that's a good matchup. I think he can win that, but after all of this, I don't want to pick Ian Garry, even if I do think he's going to win. I want Islam, even if I don't agree with all his life choices. I want Islam to come out here, be a true man, and beat up this guy that, talks bad about his family and misses his granddad's funeral. So this is my not a hit piece, but a truth piece on Ian Garry. And if you like this and want more, like, comment on the video, and subscribe to the MMA Trav. And I'll see you all in the next video.